And now we turn to the Google Assistant, and there have been a few issues flagged on the mailing list in particular of late about the chime disappearing and perhaps the audible feedback from the assistant not being what you want. So Warren is going to show you how to fix both of those things.
And now here's a demonstration of that buggy assistant. The Google Assistant. The Google Assistant is an important part of the Android experience. With the Google Assistant, we could do things like send text messages, check for weather, control home devices, and so forth. Good as the assistant is, sometimes it can be a little bit funky. In other words, there are times that it doesn't behave the way that we would like it to. Prime examples are a couple things that I'm going to be talking about, and that has to do with the chime or the Google Assistant failing to verbalize results for what we just asked. I'll be showing you how these things are and how you can go about fixing those things until Google fixes them, most especially the one that has to do with the chime. The word on the street is that a lot of sighted people don't want to hear the chime, and as a result of that, Google by default turn off the chime. Therefore, for example, a blind person finds it difficult to know when the mic is listening or when it isn't, because of the absence of the chime. I will show you how to go about enabling that chime. I will now invoke my assistant. What's the weather in LA? As you could hear, there was nothing that comes through. However, my results are being displayed on the screen, and that's the second problem that we'll be talking about. If I put my finger down, for example.
Currently, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny, high, 79 degrees low, 49 degrees, precip, 0%.
So we are told that it's currently 78 degrees Fahrenheit in Los Angeles. However, this wasn't verbalized. Now, before we go to fixing that problem, let's go ahead now and fix the problem of making it chime to indicate when it is listening and when the microphone has closed. For that, I'm going to tap on the Google Assistant menu found near the top, just about 2 inches from the top.
Google Assistant menu. Assistant setting.
And by the way, for today's demonstration, I am using the Heather voice from the a cappella group. I am now in the menu of the Google Assistant. What we're looking for here is to scroll down and find an item that says Accessibility. I will now scroll down, and that's putting my 2 fingers in the middle of the phone and roll it up, and that scrolls downwards.
Accessibility, support for vision, hearing, motor, and cognitive impairments.
There is our accessibility. I will now tap here.
Assistant settings. Accessibility. Web view, audit list.
I am now in the accessibility settings of the Google Assistant. There are a couple items here. The first one is the one that talks about opening the mic, and the second one talks about closing the mic.
Mic open notification switch. Enlist, item 1 of 0.
And the second one?
Mic close notification switch. Enlist, item 1 of 0.
So, we are told that there's a switch, but we're not told whether it is on or it is off, and that's the bug. In order to turn these things on, it requires that one temporarily disable TalkBack. In other words, unload TalkBack or suspend TalkBack. But before you do that, though, you want to make sure that you know where these things are located on the screen. They are near the top, like past the middle toward the top. And so the first one is there, and then the second one is there. What I'm going to do now is unload my TalkBack by holding down the 2 volume keys and then tap around that area, and hopefully I would have turned on the switch. I will now unload TalkBack by holding down the two volume keys.
TalkBack off.
TalkBack reports that TalkBack is off. I will now put my finger, tap, and then move my finger down and tap. I'll tap again. Now I'm hoping that I probably have them done, so I'm going to bring back TalkBack.
TalkBack on.
Now I will go ahead and close out of here and ask the assistant. So I'll now navigate home.
Pixel launcher.
I'll double tap on the back of my phone. Weather in Los Angeles. Great. So I managed to enable the chime.
Currently 78 degrees Fahrenheit.
The next thing that we would like to fix here is the verbalization of my results. In other words, I do not want to touch my screen to find out what the temperature is in Los Angeles. I would rather want it verbalized. And that's what we need to fix. I do, however, want to mention here in passing that in its current state, if my screen were off, in other words, if I have my screen shut off and I use the magic word and ask for that particular question or whatever question it is, my result would be verbalized. But when my screen is on and whether I tap the back of my phone or use the magic word, the result is not verbalized. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I will now exit out of Assistant,
Screen 4 of 4.
Shut off my screen, and use the magic word, hoping that my speaker on the other side of the room is not triggered. Hey Google. Weather in Los Angeles.
It's 78 and sunny. Today, it'll be sunny, with a high of 79 and a low of 49.
There you go. I had to speak softly so my assistant speaker on the other side of the room does not respond to it. Now that we know it works when the screen is shut off, but doesn't work when the screen is on,
Device unlocked.
I now need to find a way of fixing that. And the way we go about fixing that is going back to the assistant menu. I will now invoke the assistant, so I have the assistant pop up on my screen. Weather in New York, New York.
Currently 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, I will now find and tap on that assistant menu near the top right, just below the top part of the screen.
Google Assistant menu. Assistant settings. Edit box. Search settings. Search settings. Audit list.
And by the way, instead of scrolling, if you like, you could simply search for what you are looking for. So in other words, instead of us scrolling down and find what we're looking for, in this case it's going to be the assistant voice is what we're after, we could simply type the word voice here and I'm sure it'll pop up the assistant voice from the search result. I will tap here to search for voice.
Back search settings. Edit box.
I will now type in the word voice or simply VO and see the results that we got.
Board. V. Victor. V. P. Pop O. O. Showing items 1 to 6 of 7.
There are 6 items. Let's narrow it down by putting in letter I.
I. Showing items 1 to 6 of 6.
There are 6. How about we narrow it down more?
C. Charlie. C.
Okay, let's see.
Assistant settings. Assistant voice. How your assistant will sound in list.
That's the one we're after.
Keyboard hidden. Assistant settings. Navigate up. Button. Audit list.
Tapping on the assistant voice, how my assistant will sound,
Might not be available on some of your devices based on your assistant language setting. Speech output.
so we need to scroll toward the bottom of the phone, and what we're looking for here is the last item simply called phone.
Phone, brief.
We are told phone followed by the word brief. In other words, my responses are supposed to be brief. However, those responses are not verbalized. Therefore, let's go ahead, tap here, and change that over to full. Now, there are times that your device may even be on full, and I've seen it on several of my devices, where the default was full, but for some reason it still will not work. And therefore, in such a case, you need to switch to something like brief or none, and then go back in after you clear out of here, and then come back and go switch it back to full, and then it would work. Let's go ahead and tap here now.
Assistant settings. Navigate up button.
So tapping here, we've got 3 radio buttons. We've got none, brief, and full. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Choose how conversational your assistant will be.
I just realized that my TTS engine's a little bit too fast. And now I'm going to use my up-down scrubbing movement with one finger to find the granularity that talks about speech rate.
Characters. Spoken language. Speech rate.
There is my speech rate, and I'll now swipe down with one finger.
Speech rate 90%. Speech rate 82%. Speech rate 75%.
Great. Let's leave it at 75%. Now, back to what I was trying to do.
Choose how conversational your assistant will be.
Choose how conversational your assistant would be. And our options are
Full, radio button, not selected, 1 of 3, in list, 3 items. Full,
there is the full or
brief, radio button, selected, 2 of 3. Brief,
and the last one.
none unless hands-free, radio button, not selected, 3 of 3. None unless hands-free.
This means that nothing would be spoken unless you have something like a Bluetooth headset or connected to a Bluetooth speaker. In this case, we want to choose the first one, which is full, instead of the brief.
Brief, full, radio button, selected.
I have selected the full. Now, let's go ahead now and exit out of here by navigating our way back home.
Pixel launcher. Fit, out of list.
I am now back home and my screen is still on. I have not shut my screen off. I will now simply double tap the back of my phone and ask it the same question that I asked earlier. Weather in Los Angeles.
It's 78 and sunny. Today, it'll be sunny, with a high of 79 and a low of 49.
I would love to be out there doing some barbecue instead of the 35 degrees that we have in my area. And that's how you go about fixing those 2 issues found on the Google Assistant.
What I think is really funny about the Google Assistant is that they do seem to manage to break it occasionally, but however badly they break it, it's still way better than Siri.
You know, and I don't know why Google keeps doing this. You know, one moment it works absolutely beautiful. And the one that I'm still waiting for is the one that has to do with, text messages. You're trying to send a text message. And it used to be that, it will, hey, here's what your text says. Do you want to send it? And, it does do that for me occasionally. But other times, as soon as I finish dictating, it will say message sent. Doesn't even give me that opportunity to review what I got. And so I would love to see that back again or be consistent. But this is something that keeps happening now and then. One moment is there, the next moment is gone. So it's like little kids playing hide and seek somewhere in a cornfield.
Yeah, I can't remember who told me this. It might even have been you. So if I'm telling you something you sent to the list, then I'm sorry. But I heard that one of the ways to fix that, and it will work if the screen is either locked or unlocked.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think now though that with the if one sets it to the full, it should be able to work. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna test something here. Send a text message.
Who do you want to text?
Gary Melkonian.
Sure. What's the message?
Hey, Duckhead, what's going on? This is Warren and sending you a quick message, period.
I got. Headed Duckhead, what's going on? This is Warren and sending you a quick message. Ready to send it?
Change it.
What's the new message?
Hey, Gary, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you, period.
I got. Hey Jerry, I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to you. Ready to send it?
Change it.
What's the new message?
Hello, bro, comma. I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you, period.
I got. Hello, bro, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you. Ready to send it?
Send it.
Sending your message.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. When it works absolutely beautifully. And other times when it doesn't, as soon as you finish dictating your message, it says message sent. As you could see, I said the word Gary and it said Jerry. So if I didn't have that opportunity to hear it, read it back to me, it would have sent a message to my friend Gary, addressing him as Jerry. And he probably would be thinking that, probably I broke a bottle of vodka or some crazy stuff like that, which I don't even drink. So that's what I'm talking about. But I think that problem, though, is something that comes and goes, but probably it's now been fixed for good. I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, I hope it does too. Well, one of the other annoying things I found about it's not just the Google Assistant, to be fair, it's all of them. Does anyone play music using their assistant, like off Spotify or similar services?
I don't subscribe to any musical stuff. I think the only one that I have, of course, is the free YouTube whatever, and I could always ask the assistant to play something from YouTube. But of course, not being a subscriber, would always play something else. But if I do it on the phone, for example, it will play exactly what I'm asking for. But if I ask the Google Home speaker to play something from YouTube, because I'm not a subscriber, it will play some radio relating to that music.
What really annoys me is, like, obviously some songs are performed multiple times, so you might get especially someone like Bob Dylan, they might have recorded it in the 60s, he might have done it live, he might have done it on a later album or a later live session, and so you ask it to play the song and it won't play the version you want, and there doesn't seem to be a ready way to go, yeah, that's the right song, but I don't want that version, go next. Because if you go next, it'll play the next thing it's queued up to recommend, rather than what a phone would do textually, which is play the next in the search results. And I wish they would make that better. Like I say, I don't think it's a Google Assistant thing particularly, but it's a problem of all the AIs. Alexa does it as well, and I just wish they would fix it, or give you a way to say, I do want that track, I just don't want that version of it, and the next thing doing actually what next ought to do in that situation.
How about if you try something like play the studio version or the studio recording of a particular song, instead of just saying, hey, I want you to play Who Goes There or some crazy tune like that?
So what I've sometimes tried to do is append the album name to it. But that tends more often than not just to confuse it, and it might play the entire album rather than do what I want. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe listeners have found a way around this. I haven't particularly asked on any forums. It's just something you sort of accept, and then you get your phone out and you get it to play it on the speaker because Spotify can cast. So it's like, I can't be bothered to do this anymore.
Yeah. And I can see where they're coming from, though, because if I ask, for example, say, hey, play When You Are Gone by Jim Reeves, for example, and if he has a live recording that he did, for example, it may be that one probably has the most plays on the YouTube, and so it would be that one that would be first
Yeah.
to be played.
I don't mind them getting
the
it
reasoning.
wrong.
I think that's the
Yeah.
reasoning behind that whole mess.
I'm sure. I mean, they don't know which one I want, really. So I'm happy they get it wrong. What I do want to be able to do, though, is go, no, not that one, and have it play something different.